All right, we're going to finish things off here by talking about lookup tables. So a lookup table really is nothing more than using uh, is really a complicated if statement. It's where there's more than only two options. All right, so with an if statement, something is either true or false. Those are the only two things that can happen. The reason we would want to use a lookup table is that there might be more than two options that could happen. So let's take a look at this specific example where we again are looking at our employees, and before we only had 2 levels for employees. Now we have up to 5 levels for employees. You can still do this with if statements, but what ends up happening is where I had said before we talk about nested if statements. You'd have to put ifs inside of ifs inside of ifs, and it gets very complicated and very long, and they're really hard to read. So instead, we can switch this up and use a lookup table, and it makes it suddenly a lot easier to work with. So there's a couple different ways that we can use these lookup tables. So let's play around with them and figure it out. So I may end up splitting this up into 2 videos just because I don't want it to be too long and drawn out. So what we're going to start off with is the rate. So the hourly rate for our employees. We're going to go ahead and fill these in. So we have some information down here about what our employees get paid. So we have level 1 employees make $10 an hour, 2 make $12 an hour, level 3 makes 15, level 4 makes 20, and level 5 makes 24. So what we can do is we're going to set up a lookup table really quickly to make this work. So the way that that's going to happen is over here. I'm just going to go. You can create the lookup table wherever you want, but it has to really be just numbers or numbers and letters. They're very simple. So what we have here does not count as a lookup table. It's way too complicated. There's too many words. Excel's not going to be able to understand what that means. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our levels down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to go ahead and next to those, we're going to put the hourly rates that they would make. So for level 1, they make 10, then 12, then 15, then 20, and then 24. So there is our lookup table. Now to make this easier, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and name our lookup table. So we're going to come up to the Formulas tab up here, and we're going to go to Define Name. So we're going to define this lookup table. So I already have the table selected, so I have to give it some kind of a name. So in this case, these are hourly rates. So I'm going to call this rate lookup, and then hit enter or click OK. So there's my table. So now we're going to have to come into the cell for the rates, and we're going to use that lookup function. So again, once you've done this a few times and you've gotten the habit of what parameters need to go into the functions, then you don't have to go through and select the function and do all that. You could just go ahead and type it in. But when we're starting off, it makes sense to come over and use the functions. So I said it's a lookup table, so we can go ahead and use lookup. But specifically, what we're going to be using is the VLOOKUP function. So it stands for vertical lookup. So that's how our table is set up. It's a vertical table. There's also a horizontal lookup. You can set it up that way, but vertical lookup seems to get the job done in most cases. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and we're going to go ahead and set this up. So again, 3 required parameters. We have to put them all in. So we're going to go ahead and get this going. So our lookup value is our first one. Lookup value is the value to be found in the first column of the table, and can be a value, a reference, or a text string. So what do we actually want to look up in our table? So our table is down here again. So we want to look up the level. The level is what we want to look up. So if we look at our row here, the level can be found here in C3. So that's the level that we want to look up in that table. So I'm going to click that cell. Again, we always want to use cell references. We don't want to type anything out in case things change. And then, so that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking up the number 5 inside there. Now the next question is, Excel needs to know, where are you going to be looking this up? So we're going to be looking this up inside our lookup table. All right. So we could go over here and we could select our table, but that becomes problematic when we start copying our formulas and stuff like that. But that's why we went ahead and named it earlier. So I can go ahead and start typing in. I can type in my the name of my table, and you can see that it is starting to pull in values over here on the side. So everything's good to go there so far. I believe if we try, I'm going to delete that and we'll try and go ahead and select this. I believe if I start, no, it's not going to find it for me. So I thought it would give us a little pop-up to remind us of what it was called, but I guess you just have to know the name of your function, name of your table. So recapping real quick, lookup value. So what do we want to look up in the table? All right. If you were going to be doing this by yourself, ignoring the fact that you're using Excel formulas and all that, what do you actually want to look up in the table? You want to look up the level, so we have to pick that particular cell that has the level number in it. Then for our table array, where are we going to be looking up this number 5? Where do we have to look? So we have to select our table. Then last but not least, we want to know which column has the number in it. So in this lookup table, which column has our final answer in it? So you only have 2 columns, so it's either 1 or it's 2. So that's what we have to come up with. We either have to come up with 1 or 2 for our final answer. So we're going to go ahead and, because our answer is in the second column, we're just going to go ahead and put a number 2, and that's where it's going to find our answer. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and you'll see that level 5 gives me a rate of 24, which if you look in our table, sure enough, a level 5 employee should make $24 an hour. So if I go ahead and copy this down, you'll see that level 3 makes 15, everything matches up just like it should. And we're good to go. So we'll call it quits on this video. We'll do another one. We're going to continue talking about lookup tables, but now we're going to do them where we have a range. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the bonus here. So sit tight and let's take a look at that.